You know that feeling when you're in an argument, you got all the facts on your side, but the other person just doesn't care? It's like you're shouting into a hurricane. Well, today we're going to dig into why that happens. We're using Tom Nichols' incredible book, The Death of Expertise, as our guide. We'll break down his main arguments and then see how they play out in a place that's right on the front lines of the information wars, Taiwan. All right, let's dive in.
So it all kicks off with a problem that I think a lot of us can recognize. Nichols started noticing this really disturbing pattern. You had professionals, doctors, lawyers, you name it, being aggressively told they were flat out wrong by the very people they were trying to help. And this wasn't just healthy skepticism. Nope. This was a full-blown rejection of a lifetime of work, usually based on, a 5-minute Google search.
And this really brings us to the absolute core question of our time, doesn't it? What happened? What shifted in our world that made a quick skim of a web page feel more valid, more authoritative than decades of actual hands-on experience? It's a huge puzzle, and it gets right to the heart of how we think about knowledge itself. To start solving that puzzle, we have to get the diagnosis right. And here's the thing. The problem isn't that people are getting dumber. Nichols is really clear about this. The real issue is actually something way more dangerous. It's a confident, often pretty angry rejection of knowledge itself. And here's where things get really tangled. We've taken this beautiful fundamental idea of democracy, that all our votes are equal, and we've twisted it into something it was never meant to be. The idea that all of our opinions are equally valid. Look, my opinion on how a black hole works is not, and should not be, equal to a physicist's. Confusing those two things, well, that's a recipe for disaster. And psychologically, this whole thing gets a turbo boost from something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what's so wild about this is the paradox at its core. The less you actually know about a subject, the more confident you are that you're an expert. It's because your lack of knowledge literally blinds you to how much you don't know. It is a vicious, vicious cycle. So how did we get here? Well, this didn't just happen overnight. Nichols points his finger at 4 huge societal shifts that piece by piece tore down the foundation of trust between regular people and experts. Let's walk through them. Okay, first up, the internet. It gave us access to endless information, but it didn't give us a quality filter. So it just feeds that Dunning-Kruger confidence we just talked about. Second, higher education. Colleges started acting more like businesses, treating students as customers and selling degrees like products instead of teaching them how to think critically. Third, the news. The whole industry pivoted from information to entertainment, chasing clicks and outrage instead of clarity. And finally, and this is a big one, experts themselves are not blameless. Some high-profile screw-ups and really bad communication have definitely helped erode public trust. So you have these 4 forces: the internet, education, news, and expert failures. How do they actually work in the real world? To see that, let's take these ideas out of the book and put them under a microscope. And we're going to look at Taiwan, a place where the battle for truth is happening every single day. Just think about it for a second. Taiwan is one of the most digitally connected places on the planet. Everyone's online. But at the same time, it's facing this constant, massive wave of disinformation. This makes it the perfect and honestly a really crucial case study for seeing how a society tries to tell fact from fiction when the very idea of expertise is under attack. And this is where it gets really eye-opening. Just look at the hard data. When people in Taiwan come across something that might be fake news, a staggering 68% say they rely on their own judgment. Now compare that to the less than 40% who'd go ask an expert. That's not just a gap, my friends, that is a chasm. It's the arrogance of ignorance in actual numbers. And this points to something even deeper. This crisis isn't just about new technology. In a place like Taiwan, it gets amplified by this cultural shift away from deep reading. A survey found that this number, over 57%, is the part of the population that basically never reads books or magazines. When a society stops valuing that kind of slow, deep learning, it creates the perfect fertile ground for this overconfidence to just explode. Okay. So, we've gone through the diagnosis, we've looked at the symptoms. Now for the most important question: what in the world do we do about it? The way forward isn't about pointing fingers. It's about realizing that rebuilding that bridge between citizens and experts, well, it's a job for both sides. First up, the experts. Their jobs have fundamentally changed. It's not enough to just be brilliant anymore. They have to be good communicators. They need to speak in plain English, be willing to say, "We don't know yet,"
and pull back the curtain on how they do their work. Trust isn't something you can demand. It has to be earned over and over again.
And as for the rest of us, our job is, in a way, even harder. It's internal. It starts with something called epistemic humility, which is really just a fancy way of saying we need to be comfortable admitting, you know what? I don't know. It means choosing curiosity over being right all the time and learning the huge difference between healthy skepticism, which asks good questions, and cynical dismissal, which just rejects all the answers.
Which leaves us right here. In an age where we're all just swimming, maybe drowning, in information, our biggest challenge isn't finding more answers. Maybe our greatest challenge is learning who to trust. It's about figuring out which people and which institutions can actually guide us through the noise. And honestly, the future of our democracy might just hang in the balance.